Hello and welcome. We live in a world that's all about collaboration, but our best ideas often get stuck in this weird paradox. How do we share them so they can actually grow without just, losing control of them? Today, we're going to explore a new framework that tries to solve that exact problem.
This is the classic creator's dilemma, isn't it? You get that brilliant spark, that amazing idea, but traditional IP feels like you have to lock it in a vault. If you share it, you're worried it's going to get away from you. But if you don't share it, it might never become what it's supposed to be. It's a really tough spot to be in.
And that's exactly the problem the Philfo license framework was built to tackle. It's a much more nuanced system that's all about being flexible, ethical, and most importantly, practical, especially for creators and communities that are trying to build something together. So how does it actually work? Well, the framework breaks down an idea's life into three distinct stages, or streams: natural, traditional, and artificial. You can just think of it as NTA. It's this whole journey that takes a concept from a raw little spark, moves it through a collaborative workshop, and then polishes it into a final product that's ready for the world. All right, let's start at the beginning. First up is the natural stream. This is stage one, that very initial, almost fragile moment of creation, where an idea first comes into existence. The natural stream is the idea in its purest, most raw form, that intuitive spark. The source material actually has a fascinating way of describing this: telepathy. It's that moment when an idea just kind of appears in your head, almost like it was beamed there. It's powerful, but it's also incredibly delicate. So to protect this fragile spark without just suffocating it, the framework uses a really special kind of non-disclosure agreement. The natural NDA is what they call permissive. Its whole goal isn't to lock the idea down, but to create a safe little bubble for open, ethical conversations about it. And what about ownership? Well, at this stage, it's handled with a simple, basic copyright. This just makes sure the original creator, and I love this term the source uses, the ghost author, is always recognized. It means that from the very beginning, the idea's origin is totally secure. So with that initial spark protected, it's time for the idea to start growing. And that happens in stage two, the traditional stream. This is where the idea moves out of one person's head and into the hands of a community.
The traditional stream is basically the workshop. It's where a community comes together to add structure and formalize that initial spark. And the analogy here shifts from that instant telepathy to a telegraph. It's a much more deliberate, structured process of communicating and building together.
And what's driving this whole stage? It's the collective power of the community. This is the real engine of transformation, that shared energy that takes one person's idea and starts forging it into something way bigger, way more robust.
Now, this new collaborative vibe needs its own kind of protection. The traditional NDA is designed specifically for this. The focus shifts from protecting one person's idea to protecting the contributions of the entire group and the integrity of the knowledge you're all building together.
And instead of a full copyright or license, this stage uses something different called a permit. A permit grants limited rights, specifically for collaboration. Think of it as the official key that says, yes, you can work on this, you can build on it, but you got to do it within the rules of our community. Okay, so the idea was sparked, it's been workshopped by the community, now it's ready for the final leg of its journey, becoming a polished product in what's called the artificial stream. The artificial stream is the end result, that shiny, finished product that's ready for the public or for commercial use. The analogy evolves one last time, this time to a telegram, a clear, refined message that's being sent out into the wider world. At this final stage, as you might guess, the protection gets much more serious, much more legally binding. The artificial NDA is strict. It's designed to protect the final product from things like misuse or someone trying to reverse engineer it once it's out there.
And then finally, we arrive at the license. This is the formal legal agreement that most of us are probably familiar with. It outlines all the specific terms of use for the final commercial product and governs how other people can interact with the finished work.
So, when you look at it all together like this, you can really see the logic, right? The phase goes from a raw idea to a collaborative workshop to a finished product. The analogy for that journey goes from intuitive telepathy to a structured telegraph to a public telegram. And the tools for confidentiality and ownership scale up right alongside it, from a permissive NDA and basic copyright to a community permit, and finally to a strict formal license. Each stage has exactly the level of protection it needs, nothing more, nothing less. Okay, so we've seen all the individual streams. But how do all these pieces actually fit together to create the whole picture? Let's zoom out and look at the system as a complete whole.
The framework has this really cool term for the combined effect, cymatics. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like a unique fingerprint for each project. The specific way you combine the stream, the confidentiality agreement, and the ownership model creates a totally distinct pattern of protection, a Philfo seal that's tailor-made for that idea's specific journey.
And this isn't just a bunch of theory. It has a really practical application in research. The methodology lays out a clear workflow. You use your own personal data for the natural stream, a shared community database for the traditional stream, and then public databases for the final artificial stream analysis. See? It's a very clear path.
And this really just gets to the heart of it all. This entire framework is a tool. It's designed for the independent researchers, the small teams, the online communities, all the people who are often stuck trying to make a rigid, one-size-fits-all IP system work for them. This aims to give them something that's actually practical and ethical for how they work.
Which, of course, leaves us with a final, really big thought. In an age of open source, remote collaboration, and decentralized communities, could a system like this, one that actually adapts and grows with an idea's lifecycle, be the key that unlocks a whole new way of innovation? It's definitely something to think about.